Hello and welcome to the Stateside Soccer Show. My name is Jordan, and with me, as always, is Logan. How are you today, Logan?
I'm doing well, Jordan. I'm off work, so it's a Thursday, but we're recording this. Tomorrow's Friday. Friday Eve's always my favorite day um, of the week.
We call it
I
Friday
like Fridays.
Junior at work.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fridays are really like a non-factor for us typically because we get off at 3 o'clock
What?
um, on Fridays. Yeah. So I work for a company that they're Adventist, and Adventists have to be home for the Sabbath at a certain time.
Oh.
So yeah, they can't be out
Looks like I'm going to be
past
doing some research on my next job. I'm just kidding.
Jordan's like,
I'm
oh,
just
well, you
kidding.
guys work
No,
for
no,
the
no. I
dentist
work
now.
from home Friday, so I feel like I'm very excited for tomorrow
Oh,
as well.
well, the life of working from home. That'd be interesting to know. Like, I know there's a big thing going around right now. Like, it's kind of, we're in a weird I was just listening to this on TikTok. Like, we're in a weird transition of people working at home, and I'm starting to wonder how much time is spent at home now for like even people that work in soccer. It'd be interesting to know if some people that are writing and doing stories. I'm assuming if they're not at the stadium, maybe they're remote working from home. That'd be interesting to kind of, I don't know, topics galore, Jordan. There's so many topics we could get into. Um,
Yeah, I'm
that is just time.
rocking my new Union kit I
I
got
love
for
it.
Christmas.
It looks so good.
It does. I like it not having the crest and just having the snake embroidered on there. I think that looks cool. I can't wait to see what the home kit's going to be revealed of. And just to plug this ahead of time, last year we did something that went very, very well, which was grading the MLS kits for the new kits. We're bringing that back again this year. So whenever we get to, probably in the next month, because the season's going to be kicking off in a month. So sometime in the next month here, once they reveal all these kits, which that is our biggest bone to pick with them, is how they kind of are so quiet on when this stuff is going to drop, and then we'll have like a whole week of teams just randomly dropping stuff at random times. But then we'll get together, Logan and I, and we'll have a fun podcast where we'll do that, and maybe we go live for that. I believe last year we did not put that on the podcast feed because it's not very audio friendly. So it will be exclusive to the YouTube and to Goals TV, where we are also currently broadcasting our episodes. So make sure you check that out if you are a fan of soccer. It's like a YouTube just for soccer, and there's lots of great creators over there working on stuff. You're also able to like produce articles, which I had my first one on there about a month ago when the U.S. Open stuff was breaking. I put my first thoughts and kind of did some analysis over there. But yeah, I'm really excited to get to that fun episode that we're going to be doing later. We have a fun one today too, which is our MLS Mount Rushmores and who belongs. So before we do that, real quick, I just wanted to state Stateside Soccer Show is part of the Log Jam Media Podcast Network, where we have a plethora of other podcasts detailing, Star Wars with our Pod Awakens podcast, to the Infinity Saga and Beyond, where we talk Marvel, not just MCU. We also have comic book talk over there. Elseworlds, our DC fan podcast, and we also have some really cool stuff coming on the Log Jam Media YouTube channel that we're going to be publishing some stuff on too. And of course, Films for the Very First Time, which is a fun podcast where we explore films, well, for the very first time. All right, let's dive into our Mount Rushmores, Logan, and kind of discuss what our criteria was. Because, again, we were just talking off air. I'm not really sure on how you did it, but I set 4 criteria that I made because this kind of came up a lot where people were putting up some interesting names. So we'll read the ones we got on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all that uh, at the end of the show. But I made 4 criteria, and I didn't publish this ahead of time or anything because it's my own personal criteria I made. Because I do think it can get very difficult if you don't have criteria, right? Are you throwing general managers up there? Are you throwing coaches up there? What are you weighing, right? So for me, criteria number 1, I prioritized more recent seasons when it came to comparing MLS Cup wins. So, what I mean by that is I know some people will have probably players from those early DC teams that won like 3 MLS Cups very early on. I I don't, spoiler alert, just because the quality of play has risen more. So I'm kind of putting more emphasis on more recent times. But that's not to say that these are all players currently playing, because criteria number 2, players have to be retired to be in my Mount Rushmore. So that is what I have deemed on my criteria. Criteria number 3, I am mostly stats driven, not counting off the field contributions. I know people would look at people like David Beckham, Lionel Messi. More Beckham because he's retired. So, spoiler alert, I do not have David Beckham on my Mount Rushmore because I, I'm focusing on the field contributions and stats. 4, only players, no coaches or general managers is the criteria I have for myself. So, those are my 4 criteria, and that's what I set to, because when we were talking about this concept, we were saying like there's so many ways you can go with this, right? There's so many ways, and I see some of the ones that people commented, so I'm very excited to dive into that, because some people did not follow my criteria, and that's fine, because I feel like this is such a subjective concept, right? And that's why it's so fun. But Logan, did you have any criteria like I had when you were making your list?
Yeah, so I took it like a different approach, right? So I was thinking about Mount Rushmore in and of itself, right? It's got four of our former presidents on it, and they're big pieces that kind of lay the foundation, right, for the country, and it's going to be. So that's kind of where I took my MLS Mount Rushmore. Is I took this to think, okay, how can we think about Mount Rushmore as far as MLS is concerned? And I thought more about, now these players are retired. That was definitely one criteria I have. I don't really believe in putting a current player in, because it's really hard to kind of factor how their career went and really kind of encompass everything that's happening now. I think Lionel Messi in a couple of years is one that maybe people start to put into their own Mount Rushmore, which is wild to think that he could possibly be on it. But I chose players, Jordan, that and I want to say that had a bigger impact than just on the field, right? So I went in a different route. It's a little less about stats and titles. One, it's more about kind of the impact and the uniqueness of the player, and just what they really mean to a particular player that would have been watching this. And mine are a little bit more recent, just because I've got memories somewhat of some of these players playing in the league. Whereas I know yours might be a little bit different, or somebody else's might be a little different. I know I was reading through some of the comments, and some of them were naming players from when MLS first started. So
Right.
that's a little tougher for me, just because I haven't been around the league. So this is a little bit more current, but these are players that I think, Jordan, laid the foundation for MLS, or people that are going through MLS now. And I'll kind of explain what that means a little bit as we get into the players, about laying the groundwork for the players going forward.
Interesting. Yeah. So I think this is good that we have different sets of criteria, because I think this is going to give us some different lists. Now ahead of time, I know your list because I
Yeah,
had to make a graphic. Do you know mine? It's in the notes. I didn't know if you looked at it.
I didn't look at the notes, so
Okay.
I'm kind of excited, because I
Okay.
kind of left it for a surprise. I'm
All
really
right.
excited to see who you pick.
Well, I'll go first. And I don't have these in any particular order. So like I didn't like, cuz the presidents are not really in any order on Mount Rushmore. So I'm just going to say one that I think is an obvious, and it's my favorite player of all time. It's Landon Donovan. Um, Here's why. 5 MLS Cup wins. He's got 2 from San Jose in '01 and '03. He's got 4 with LA Galaxy, and he is the most winning player of all time. Actually, that's 6 MLS Cups, isn't it? Did I just do the math wrong? Hold on. I think I did the math wrong. Um, One,
You said
two.
MLS titles, right?
Yeah, so he's got
Yeah,
6. I had
six.
that
Yeah,
wrong. Okay. I had
there's
5 written
six.
down. Okay, 6. He's the most winning player of all time when it comes to MLS Cups. 4 with LA Galaxy, 05, 11, 12, and 14. Part of that LA Galaxy um, dynasty in the 11, 12, 13, 14 era of MLS. He has 2 supporter shields, 2 with LA in 10 and 11. An Open Cup in 2005. He's got 145 goals, and he is the all-time assist leader with 136 assists. So if even people wanted to try to say that he is not, there's always these debates about best American player. People will say Clint, people will say Landon. I know people usually put Clint higher because he went overseas and stuff, but for me, I always still think of Landon as the GOAT when it comes to U.S. soccer, and I love Dempsey, but I always kind of put Landon above him, and I think that just the titles in MLS and stuff. And again, we're kind of focusing. This is an MLS Mount Rushmore, not a U.S. soccer Mount Rushmore, so we're not focusing on U.S. soccer achievements or anything like that. But on the field, there you go. If you wanted to include any off the field stuff, just the kind of fact that he stayed in MLS for most of his career and kind of helped legitimize that a little bit more, you could go with that. But my criteria was on the field. So I have Landon Donovan as the first one that came to mind when I was making this list. And we're going to alternate here. So, Logan, I'm going to open the floor up to you. And I think what we should do is if you have the same player, let's just knock it out now. If you don't have the same player, then you just say another player. But I'm going to cede the floor to you.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Landon Donovan too. When I think about the league, seriously, when I think about MLS, I think of the old logo with the cleat. I think about, and Jordan and I were texting about this. Like when I think that logo, I immediately think Landon Donovan. My next door neighbor was a huge soccer fan, and when MLS was really just kind of a newborn, it felt he was really on the bandwagon, and people knew who Landon Donovan was if they were watching U.S. soccer because of MLS, and I think that's really special, right? And I know we're not talking about country as much, but it's still, it really is. I think that he pretty much kept the league afloat when it needed to be. And I think there were moments that he had in this league that are just special. And like you said, to have the kind of magnitude of career that he had on and off the field, to be able to stay around MLS and really just kind of be this, I guess, ambassador for the league and still be totally ingrained in the league. And then even in the lower leagues in the United States, he's really helped, and it's kind of put these players on maps in and amongst MLS. And so I think it's just special. And the fact that the MVP trophy is named after a specific someone like that person, I think belongs on every Mount Rushmore. Is if they get a trophy named after them, then that player was probably pretty special, and in the eyes of fans, probably one of the most successful players that's ever played in the league. So, yeah, I 100% agree with you on Landon Donovan. Just watching highlights of him too, Jordan. I'm sad that I never got to watch him play. Really, like I think there was maybe 1 or 2 games maybe that were on, and I've watched Landon play in MLS. But really, I watched Landon play through the United States, and just the talent, the warrior like mentality that he seemed to always have to play on the big spotlight, the biggest stage, to play with those Quakes teams that weren't as well known. Again, I really do. I think that this is a good start, because I feel like Landon's probably on a lot of people's list if they really think hard about MLS.
Yeah, I think he's the gimme, right? That's why I
Yeah,
started with him.
it's like the Michael
Um,
Jordan. Like
yeah, yeah,
he
you
literally
got to
is
have him
that.
on
Like,
there,
right, you
right? Like
got to
if you
have him. Why
ignore
not?
that, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, no, I mean he is just he was an inspiration to me when it comes to soccer, and I mean those early 2010s Galaxy teams with him, Beckham, and Robbie Keane were just so dominant, and he was a big part of that. I mean, he was an assist leader in the league like 3 of those years, and won an MVP. Um, it is funny it's named after him because we've already talked about before. There's only one player that's won it twice, and it's Preki, and it's not named after him. But because Landon Donovan had such a bigger impact on the league, so that is just what it is. Okay, so for my second one here is another gimme. I feel like, and I think the next two after this are where we're going to differ because because I saw your list, so I know, so I know that. But so we're gonna get this out of the way now. But I have Chris Wondolowski as my number two here. Again, the order doesn't really matter, but he's got 171 goals, which is the most ever. He's got two supporter shields with San Jose in 05 and 12. He's got two MLS Cups with Houston, 06 and 07. Now, he wasn't a big factor in those games. He wasn't a big player then. But those are trophies he won, so I still included that. But really, the trophies didn't matter in this. For me, it was the goal scoring record and just when you look at it too, it's not just he played a long time and scored a lot. He was a late bloomer. And we've talked about this with Wando before, where those teams where he was on Houston in 06 and 07 after they moved from San Jose and before San Jose got a franchise again that then they went back to, he was barely getting minutes, barely scoring goals in those teams, really. Like, let me see if I can find his stats from those years. But what made him so amazing is how late he kind of kicked on and then was scoring and winning like golden boots and just being like a high level player for so long. Okay, that those supporter shields and MLS Cups I mentioned that he won, he had a total of 7 starts during those times. 7. Played more games than that. But his biggest run in 07 was 307 minutes played. 1 goal. He had 2 goals. Out of those, this is where it gets crazy. Out of the 171 goals scored by Chris Wondolowski, in the first 4 years of his career, he had 2 goals. Before 2010, so if we went that's his 2009 is his 26-year-old season. Like how old he was. He had 7 of the 170 some goals he's going to score. 2010 is when that all changes. 18, 16, 27 in 2012 when he tied the record with Roy Lassiter. 11, 14, 16, 12, 13, 10, 15, 7, 5, when he's playing at 37 and 38 years old. So what is amazing about him is that, yes, he has the titles, right? He didn't really factor into those. But when it comes to when he was blooming late, he was the face of a franchise with the Quakes, and he now holds the all-time goal-scoring record, which I don't know will ever be beaten just because so many players leave from here to go overseas. So that's just pretty amazing. I feel like if we looked back and we were doing the podcast from 2005 to 2009, when he has 7 goals in like 5 seasons, we'd probably be saying it's time to move on, right? Like it's time to move on. He's not cutting it. And here he comes and just starts putting it together. It's totally amazing what he's done. So, I have Chris Wondolowski here.
Yeah, and I as well. If you weren't shocked by the spoiler, but yeah, Wando again. There's not many people, Jordan, in any league ever that score 171 goals. So to do it at the clip in which he did it, and like you said, in a late kind of bloom, for Wando is it's simply amazing. Like I'm glad that I got to watch the end of it because again, like I said with Landon, it really is a shame that I never really got to watch him play MLS games, meaningful MLS games. And you could argue that I never really got to see Wando play many meaningful games because they were with the Quakes in the last
Yeah, yeah.
last couple of years. But to truly watch somebody, and again, this is another person that really came onto the scene for me when and people are always going to talk about it when he missed
2014.
that goal, right? Which it's an impossible shot. The fact that it just didn't work out for him. But again, I think people talked about him then, so I knew who he was. And I knew that he played in MLS, and obviously MLS back then people just kind of shunned. But now that I'm a big fan of the league and having watched him play, you just look at his career, Jordan, 5-time All Star, 3-time Best 11 selection, named the league MVP in 2012,
Yeah.
um,
2 golden
and
boots.
just yeah, and to carry a team that Jordan has been pretty stinky lately. The fact that he was able to, and he was so gritty. That's another thing that I really liked about these players that I have on my list
Yeah.
is they all were very gritty players, people that they weren't going to shy away from a challenge. To score 171 goals again is just a true testament to how good and how skillful he was. He could do it from all sorts of different areas in and around the box. He was great at finishing. And we probably won't see another person like that or anywhere close to that because of how special it is that he came into this league as a supplemental draft pick and stayed around all the way throughout his career. I mean, we probably will never see that again in MLS just because of the way that the leagues work out now. So yeah, no, I'm totally impressed with Wondolowski. I think if you're looking for goal scorers, so you've got Landon, who's just the all around complete player. I think if you're looking for goal scoring, you're not going to find anybody better than Chris. And I think he's laid foundation for strikers in this league. I think there's a lot of kids growing up that are your age and my age that, and below that really liked watching him play. And when we were kids, I'm sure that there's 25, 30-year-olds out there that they style their game after Chris. So, yeah, no, I love it. And I still think that one of the best things that I've ever seen was when he joins the stands
Yeah.
um, as a Quake fan, because it was a cool moment. And I love watching those highlights when he does that. So,
I mean, also he's in the San Jose Hall of Fame.
yeah.
Just San Jose sports. It's
Yep.
like so he meant something. He transcended his club team and kind of got. I mean, I don't know what other sports San Jose has. Hockey, right? So I mean,
Hockey.
like,
Yeah.
I
And
don't
they're
know.
good, though. They were
Yeah.
good for a while.
So he was well known in his area, and yeah, that's what you said though. When I'm looking at my list of players, not to spoil anything, it's kind of similar to what I want the league to be in the future. And what I mean by that is, top goal scorers, top appearance makers, stuff like that where you can have a whole career in this league. Because that's what we need going forward at some point. At some point, we're going to need these players to just want to play in MLS. As much as U.S. soccer fans don't want to hear that, when we have baseball players playing in T-ball, their dream is Major League Baseball, not the Dutch baseball league. And that's what we need here. At some point, we need these soccer players that are growing up to be like, I want to play for my local team. So there you go. Okay, so I'm going to share my third one here. And it is a player that I don't know if people can guess this right off the top of their head, but he is the all-time appearance leader, all-time games played. He also has the all-time shutouts. I'm talking about a 2-time MLS Cup winner, 2 Supporter Shield wins, played in a CONCACAF Champions League final. I got Nick Raimondo here as one of them. And I felt like when you play that many games and you're that consistent, he's probably one of the best goalkeepers the league has ever seen, not just because of how many games he played, but like stopping penalties was a specialty of Nick Raimondo. He won a MLS Cup with DC in 04. He won an MLS Cup in '09 with RSL. He won a Supporter Shield in '06 with DC. He won a Supporter Shield in '01 with Miami Fusion before they got defunct. He was an MLS MVP, MLS Cup MVP, sorry, 2009 when they won against LA Galaxy and kind of stopped. I mean, Landon Donovan would have 7 MLS Cup wins if it wasn't for Nick Rimando, right? He is an all-star. It's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and he won Save of the Year 3 times. So I have Nick Rimando. And by the way, those all-time games played, I'm going to give you those numbers. 514. Are we getting close to that anytime soon? I doubt it. 154 shutouts. Just amazing. He played for so long. I mean, the league started in 96. He's playing in 2000. The year's 4 years old when he's playing, and he retired in 2019, which is only 5 years ago. So it's crazy. And I think he liked or retweeted one of our tweets when we were in Salt Lake too. So that's a bonus that gets him gets him on the Mount Rushmore. But I have Nick Rimando on it.
He's the reason we get scarves. No, that's a good one. I know that there were some people that I'd read their Mount Rushmores. I think one of the extra time guys chose Nick, or two of them did, or it was the consensus one. I can't remember which one it was. I think somebody in our mentions did too. I think we'll get to, but yeah, no, that's a really good one because I think that because I feel kind of bad that I didn't go after goalkeepers or defenders. I feel like I leaned all attack. But again, I think attack's just so exciting. But that's a good choice. So, all right, third up on my list, I'm going to go with Thierry Henry. And some people I think will be like, wait, what? But I just think that the magnitude in which he comes over as a decorated player from the European system. And I think having such success over there, it was one of those things, Jordan, where, like I said, laying the foundation. I think there's 2 players that were instrumental in laying the foundation for big time players coming to MLS, being the big ticketed item and succeeding and thriving in a league that was brand new, that was still trying to find its footing, that was transitioning from what it was to what it used to be to now. I think Thierry is just right there in that transition period. I think right around 2009 was when he started with the Red Bulls, 2010-ish, and really came onto the scene. And Jordan had 51 goals and 42 assists. The ultimate creator. Some of his highlights are the most spectacular plays that you'll see in football if you go across the leagues. The ability to create, the ability to carry that Red Bull team when he had Bradley Wright Phillips there with him. And it seems like, Jordan, that the Red Bull, it's sad because like I read about this and I watch these highlights and I read about Thierry Henry and I talk, about him being on Mount Rushmore and how good Red Bull were and how great they've really been as far as a success story. But then the last, 5 or 6 years, it seems they've really just kind of taken a dive. And especially over the last couple of years when we've started covering, they've just not been the same. But I tell you, Thierry Henry really did, I think, was instrumental in bringing a lot of these players over, because some of these players that are over here now were people that grew up watching Thierry Henry and they were in their prime, getting ready to start high school or get into college or starting those youth academy teams across the pond. I think watching Thierry play is just it is. He's one of the most fascinating players I think that's ever played in MLS. I think he's got good roots in MLS as well. Like he just like Landon. I think he's laid some nice roots and some foundation because he'll talk positively about MLS
Became a
and how good the
coach.
league. Right, played and was also a coach. And again, I think just enjoyed tremendous success and really put Red Bulls on the map. Like Red Bulls became a huge thing, and I think really took off once he really started to kind of have those integral parts in playing on those teams. And now they're across in Europe and playing well in other leagues. But I don't know. I feel like Thierry, it's hard to kind of pass him up if we're talking about some of the best talents that's come over from teams that were beloved over in Europe as well.
Those were some fun years. I know people are probably going to say like, man, it's gotten so much better. But okay, but that 2010, 2014 time where you
Yeah.
have Terry at Red Bulls with like Tim Cahill and players of that caliber, and then you have LA Galaxy fielding Robbie Keane, Beckham, and Landon Donovan. And then you have the dark horse of Chris Wondolowski's Earthquakes during that time. I mean, they were some fun, crazy, matchups back then. You
Hmm.
like Red Bull LA Galaxy would have been a fun matchup back then. You're like, man, this is a good game. And DC at that time was playing really
Yeah.
well. Uh, yeah, for me, I would not have thought to put Henry up there just because of the only 4 seasons. You're right, though. He had 51 goals. Something I find really funny is that he had 51 goals in 122 appearances. And when he played for France, he had 123 appearances and 51 goals. So
It's wild.
almost exact same stats for his national team as Red Bulls. But I will say it was a fun time. It's kind of the Red Bulls I miss watching. I'm not saying they have to bring big stars like this all the time, but I don't know. I feel like they should be more entertaining than they have been.
Yeah, and just reading his stats too is it's wild. Like 14 game winning goals in 4 years, 11 game winning assists in 4 years. He was named, or he was a finalist. Sorry, for that 2012, which I think Wondolowski won.
Yes, yep.
So the fact that
Wando's
they
better
have
than Terry Henry. I mean, that's all you
that's
gotta
what we're.
know.
I mean, that's what we're saying on this podcast right now. But yeah, I mean, you just go through his list of accolades and like conference championship for the first time since 2008. He had 13 appearances the postseason. He had 1 goal and 7 assists in those postseason games. Like the guy was just a baller. And again, I'm talking more about foundation, and I think European players came for 2 people because of 2 people. I really think so. And there's 2 of them on my list, and that's why I've named Terry as one of them.
Right, Chris Wondolowski and Terry Henry.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and they saw
Not just
Landon
one.
Donovan play
Yeah.
in the World Cups. They're like, "You had to go."
All right. So I guess this brings me to my last one here. Um, not an American. The whole rest of my list has been Americans. Not an American, but I'm choosing somebody that has been a factor at every club they've been to. He's won something at every club he's been to in MLS. Uh, and kind of was, I'd say, the Dax McCarty before, where you end up being able to fill his name in pretty much at all of these in the immaculate grids, because he'd been around a few times. He was part of those San Jose Earthquake teams that Landon Donovan was a part of. He was part of the Dynamo teams that Wondolowski was a part of. So I think it's really funny, actually, because I'm looking at his teams and they all kind of relate with each other, a bit. So I have the Canadian. At one point, was their best player ever, I think you would say. Never got to play in a World Cup. Dwayne DeRosario. And this could be controversial, but again, he's more recent than some of the other names that we'll list later. But I don't know. I mean, when you look at his stats, which is what I'm going by, he's got 104 goals, 4-time MLS Cup champ, 2 with San Jose, 2 with Houston, a supporter shield with San Jose, an Open Cup with uh with DC, that 2013 that Ben Olsen won before he just won the one with Houston. And then not MLS, but when he was at Toronto, he did win stuff there. He won 2 Canadian championships in 09 and 10. So he played at so many places. He started out in Toronto as a Toronto Lynx member in the A League, which was an older league back in the day. He went to the second Bundesliga for 2 years. He came back and played with the Richmond Kickers. Then he goes to MLS in '01, and this is where his MLS career starts with San Jose, Houston Dynamo, Toronto FC, New York Red Bulls for half a season, DC United, and then back to Toronto FC in 2014. And then he played a little bit of indoor, but yeah, I had to go Dwayne De Rosario. He was somebody that I watched a lot and really loved just seeing. He was good at every place he went, and there's a reason he kept getting traded around, and it was because teams that were in the hunt needed that extra piece. They go get Dwayne De Rosario, and he kind of brought legitimacy to that DC team that at the time had, I believe, like him and Dax switched at like the same exact time. Like I think there was a trade of revolving around the two of them. Dax McCarty left the DC in 2011. He got traded to the Red Bulls in 2011. Yeah, so I think then he went from Red Bulls to DC as part of that Dax McCarty trade. But yeah, I mean, he was just a good piece for that DC team, and they were really fun to watch back then under Ben Olsen, with Dwayne De Rosario being that attacking midfielder. And yeah, that's who I have as my fourth and final MLS Mount Rushmore.
That's a fun pick. I'll have to watch some highlights just because I'm not familiar with it much at all. So I don't know, people are like, what the heck, you cover MLS, you don't know who that. I was like, well, that's what happens when you jump late into the game. But yeah, no, that's a fun pick. I do like that. Jordan, my last one, I'm going to go with one that I think some people will be like, well, okay, he could probably have been on mine, but that's not exciting at all. Or some people think it'll be the greatest thing in the world, or think he's one of the best players in the world. I'm going to go with David Beckham. I'm going with Bex, baby. I think besides Landon, I think this league exists in the magnitude it does because of David Beckham. I think bringing him over in 2007, as the Galaxy did, I think really solidified this league as being a league that the premier player wants to play in at some point in their life. And I think we've become that. He's responsible for the greatest player, I think, arguably of all time, playing in Miami. And I know that, you were more strict to like not, what they do is maybe as a president of the club or owner of a club. But the fact that David set a foundation for European players to go, when I'm not necessarily in my prime anymore, but I still have a lot to give to teams, I would like to go play in MLS and help this country grow, this league grow, because I think it's an exciting opportunity. And that's what David did. David put a lot of chips in a basket that I think a lot of people were kind of scratching their head about. I think he was one of the first ones to take the dive and really understand that this is a league that has a lot of prospects. And I think he ultimately solidified us going forward in the next 100 years as being one of the top leagues in the world. So I think, in decades to come, when we look back, Jordan, I think when we look at players that were instrumental in bringing, the popularity of the league to a point where, we're going to start to kind of compete with some of these big leagues. Even soccer in the United States grew because of David Beckham, what he did in Manchester United before he came over and he was with Madrid. Like, those are, the things that he did there were special. To be able to bring a player of that caliber over to the United States and then also bring him here, and he has tremendous success. I mean, you're looking at a decorated player, a player that comes over. He's got one MLS title. He's been in multiple MLS finals and 3. He's got supporter shield titles. He's got 2 of those. MLS playoff burst 4. He's got 18 regular season goals, 5 game winners. He was an assist machine, but ultimately what he did for this league, I think he would be one that you kind of look at, and maybe if you're looking at a comparable person in other Rushmores, you're looking at guys like, I think, kind of like a Kobe Bryant or a somebody that's that's going to take the team, like a LeBron. Like, he's going to take that league to the next level and give it what it is. And he's the next era, the next big coming. And David was that. Like, David, in a short amount of time, did things that, I mean, ultimately really just kind of grew this league and made it what it is. And I think one of the most exciting players that will ever play in MLS. We got to see 2 of the world's best in him and Messi. I think that's pretty incredible, because not a lot of leagues get to say that. we're one of three that probably ever get to say that about these
PSG
players.
gets to say it because they had both of them as well, actually.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. PSG is the only one that has anybody. But yeah, no, like it's pretty cool, Jordan. When you can look around that, there's 4 leagues that got to see what Messi, Beckham, and yeah, like those four. So I think what La Liga, Premier.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
Premier never
Messi
saw
never,
Messi.
he
That's right.
never,
That's
yeah,
right.
he never went
He
there.
never did go.
So only 3 leagues.
Yeah. So Messi, yeah,
Yeah.
he's dirt. But I don't know, Jordan. I feel like Beckham has to be mentioned. He's kind of one of those throw-ins as well. That it's just an easy one. It's just an easy throw-in, and I'm pretty sure an honorable mention for many that didn't include him on their own. But this is fun. Like I like this because it's so subjective. Like
Yeah.
I took it much more foundational. You
Well,
took it much more.
that's why I went more stats and stuff, because I was like,
Yeah.
okay, if I open it up to off the field, it's like, all right, our list has the same 3 names, three,
Yeah.
even with my stuff, we still had 2 of the same, but
Yeah.
like obviously Beckham's on there for what he did of changing the league. We didn't have DPs before Beckham, that
Right.
changed everything. And then if you take into account his ownership stuff, where he's bringing in Messi and changing Miami, then you're like, wow, he's really up the ranks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at that point, I'm glad we kind of went with different list ideas or different criteria, because otherwise, I think we would have had too similar. So here's mine, final one here, and then I have yours right here.
Beautiful. Love him.
I know I got a bunch of crap this past week for rocking my Terry Henry Red Bulls kit in
I've
the Red
noticed.
Bull
Yeah,
video.
yeah. You can't do that on. You
And
can't do that.
you didn't even back me up, man.
Well, Jordan. I don't think I'd ever catch myself wearing an Inter Miami kit unless it's that Dolphin one. I'm
Yeah,
kidding. I totally
really?
would.
I was
I would
gonna
wear them
say, I
all.
was.
I'd wear them all. I don't give a. I don't care what other people think of me. Like I really don't. Um, no, man. Where would
Got
you
that
want
at
it?
Ross back in the day, man.
Okay, we cover the league. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, I know, I know.
We still have our favorite teams. When it comes down to it,
I like
we really are.
collecting kits. Yeah, and do you think I
Yes.
was gonna get beat up in New York
No.
wearing something else?
No, Jordan. I think too is like what I think you and I are. I think we're pretty good at. I think we're pretty good at being unbiased. I'd say we're probably harder on our teams than we are anybody else's teams. Maybe besides Chicago. Um, we're pretty hard with them. But
Sorry, Andrew.
yeah, sorry. But yeah, no, I think we're pretty unbiased. So, but yeah, Jordan and I like to collect things. Like I just got I don't have it in here with me. I just brought it in. I just bought a scarf, a Verde scarf. So that's exciting. It's a really cool Austin scarf. I hadn't had one yet, so I needed to. We're redoing the office. We're deciding soon, like redoing the office, and the scarves are going to go in behind me. So
Oh, cool.
I need to start collecting all of
That'll
them.
look a lot better than your blank wall there.
It will, yeah. This has been a blank space baby, and
Yeah,
I'll
you're
write
gonna
your
write
name.
your name.
Yeah.
All right. So I have an honorable mention. I only have one, because then I'm going to share the rest of those
Ooh, that's
honorable
fun.
mentions through what people were saying online.
And then I've got a question for you at the end too.
So my honorable mention is, once he's retired, he's going in here. It's going to be Darlington Nagbe. That's what kind of this. That's kind of what this whole idea was. I remember when I was watching the MLS Cup, and I looked at my friend David as we're sitting there. I'm like, dude, like Nagby's got 4 MLS Cups with 3 different teams.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to be on the list, right? Because, and I don't think you can just say that just because, like, oh, it's 4. Because there's people that have more than that. But again, my criteria is more recent wins. But the fact that he is like essential to those runs for each of those teams.
Every team, yep.
Portland, he was the guy. Atlanta, he was the guy.
Yep.
And then Columbus, he's been the guy. And he is instrumental. It may not reflect as much on the stats when you look at assists and goals, but he is like the guy that gets things running for these teams. And if, he is the man. And he's been playing for like 13 seasons now. This will be his 14th season. That's crazy. And he's constantly, a winner, or at least in the hunt. So that's who else I would be looking to add once he retired. And that would probably, unfortunately, remove Dwayne De Rosario at that point. But, I wanted to keep it right now with retired players. But I think he goes in there once all is said and done.
Yeah, these land. I mean, like I saw Extra Time did this. It would be very fun to do, but I think you'd run into similar where you'd have similar players. But they did a really fun one. This was back in 2020 when they didn't have anything to write about, so they did a Mount Rushmore thing.
Hmm.
And they did so. Definitely go check it out if you haven't seen the Extra Time one. They did a whole rundown of every single team's Mount Rushmore, and I was like, that's cool because like then you can give props to four players that were very deserving, and you can usually get the cream of the crop when you pick four of the team's best player, like a franchise's best player, especially when the league is this young. Like I feel like, so I was reading through one of them. I think Seattle probably had, I think it had Jordan Morris on it, which was a really good shout too. I think eventually he is considered one of those
He
instrumental
could, yeah.
players in the league. You know what I mean? So I think you can make a lot of arguments for a lot of different people. Like that's the fun about Mount Rushmores is there are so many players in this league now that I can make arguments for. I think there's a question I want to ask you at the end, so I'll kind of leave it because the kind of a little spoiler. But
So
there's
should
something I want to
I
ask
go
you.
ahead and say what the other people said?
Yeah, go ahead and say
Okay.
what the other people said, and then we can talk about.
So we have a follower that interacts with us quite a bit called Since 2010, and their handle is at No Pro Rel for MLS. And they said Wondolowski, Donovan, Pope, and Ramondo. So they
Look
just
at
switched
that.
out Di Rosario for Eddie Pope, who was
Yeah,
a defender for DC United,
look at you guys.
RSL, and Metro Stars. But he was instrumental in those three MLS Cups for DC from 96 to 99 under Bruce Arena. So I know I'd already had my list locked in at this point, and when he said that, I was like, okay, 3 for 4. That's pretty
Yeah,
good. I like that.
2 for 4 for me too. I like it. Yeah.
Then he also said non-players. He would go with Don Garber. He'd go with Bruce Arena, Phil
Mhm.
Onschutz, and Arthur Blank. Those are.
Bruce might be one of those people that you put up and have to take down off of Mount Rushmore if you ever find out what he did.
Oh
So
no, I mean, we have the 4 on Mount Rushmore as it is.
yeah,
So
that's true.
I don't know. I think yeah, I think if you just look at stats and
Yeah, I
stuff,
think if you're
Arena's
looking,
up
yeah,
there, and if you're looking at you know Don Garber, of course, I know people that'd be controversial, but him coming from the
man,
NFL and kind of
the things he
making
did for this league.
this league
Oof.
what it is, you
Yeah.
have to look. Every commissioner is hated.
Yes,
It just is, and in the
I think
history of
Adam
every
Silver is the only
commissioner,
one. Yeah, I think Adam Silver is the one with the highest approval rating.
yeah, and I still see people complain
Oh,
about
they
him all the
bash him
time.
all the time because now
So
the he's in season tournament and he's greedy
yeah,
and too many games and yeah.
um, yeah, and then we had LA is our house, who we had on the show a few years ago. They said they said Beckham, Donovan, Keane, and Echeverry. So that's 3. There you go. There's
It's,
3 that are
is
from.
that a Galaxy Mountain?
No, because Echeverry, I don't believe he played for that.
No,
I
I
know
don't
he
think
played
so.
for DC, but I
That's the
know
only
when
name
I
I
was
didn't
first
recognize.
reading it,
I was like, wait a minute, that's a Galaxy Mountain. I don't know who Echeverrian is. I couldn't tell you who that
when I
is.
was first reading it, Marco Echeverry. When I was first reading it, I was like, oh man, are they going all LA? But no, yeah,
You could almost do it. So
Echeverry was, he had 36 goals, 69 assists. Nice. On DC United from
nice.
96 to 03, winning 3 MLS Cups. And he was one that my dad was a big fan of when I was younger, because my dad's a DC United fan, because we didn't have Philadelphia
I'm
Union
sorry.
back then. And then Vox Pro MLS said Donovan, Giovinco, Carlos Vela, and Hani Mukhtar. And I
More
do think
current.
Vela and Mukhtar are possible once they're retired.
And Giovinco's a really good shout.
Giovinco is a pretty good shout too. It depends on look with how many. It's so hard to do this because
It
there are
is.
so
There's
many
too many players.
deserving players.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so those were the ones on Twitter. I did have a funny response on Instagram here. It was written by Ben Shalito, and he also got one of our trivia questions right a few weeks ago, and this is related. He said Preki, the only 2-time MVP winner, and 3 other people is who he would put on there.
He's not wrong.
Preki is a
That's a
good
good one.
shout though
Yeah,
too with the
Preki's a
2
good one.
MVPs.
Yeah.
And then I'll share my dad's here. My dad posted one on my personal
The
Facebook.
Chuckster.
Landon Donovan, Jaime Moreno, Dwayne DeRosario, and Robbie Keane. So he had Dwayne DeRosario as well.
Robbie
And
Keane's a good one. I feel like he'd be on a lot of people's too.
yeah, for me, it was just he was not here long
Long
enough
enough.
for me.
Yeah. But he'll be on a
Um,
lot of people's because defensive.
yeah,
I think a lot of people want to put defenders on there. They would definitely.
I have to find Jaime Moreno's. Okay, here we go. I was looking up his stats, but Jaime Moreno played at Middlesbrough for a year, and then he played MLS the rest of the time, all at DC United, and then 1 year at Red Bulls in the middle of 2003 when they were the Metro Stars. But so he's won 4 MLS Cups, all with DC United. He had 133 goals and 59 assists. So even if you wanted to take down Dwayne DeRosario from my list, Jaime Moreno is a real option there that I possibly overlooked. So at 347 games, it's pretty crazy. So yeah, I mean, if I had to make an adjustment, maybe that's my adjustment for now. But yeah, so that's all of the ones we received in our fan polls and fan comments. I will also say before Logan asks me the question he wants to ask me, go ahead and comment here in Goals TV or YouTube, wherever you're watching. Let us know what your Mount Rushmore would be. Are you heated that Logan put Terry on Ray in there? Then let us know and
Absolutely.
comment
They don't like the
below.
French people.
Comment below and let us know. If you are listening audibly, of course, just we can share more stuff in the next episode as well. If you want to tweet at us, email us, everything is Stateside Show for the handle. All right, Logan, kicking it over to you for your question.
All right, Jordan. We're building a Mount Rushmore every single season. Looking back and looking forward, 2024, we have to have some blueprints in, right? To build Mount Rushmore 2024. Who are you looking that might be able to put on a Mount Rushmore 2024 season? Who are we looking forward to? And maybe, I guess, compare that off of last season and how they look going from last season into this season. If you were to build a Mount Rushmore right now, right today, and you had to tell people right now, this is what MLS looks like. We're building 4 faces on there. Who are you putting on the 4?
So, like, to market the league, or like who I think is going to
Yep,
be
market
good
the
this
league.
year?
This is going to be a big billboard.
Oh, market the league? Oh, that would.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it now. I'm seeing the vision of the billboard with 4 MLS players' faces on a Mount Rushmore, and it's just like MLS season pass on Apple TV.
Yep.
Obviously Messi's going to be up there.
Yeah.
And I
that
know
would be
people would
one
be
for
like,
me.
boo. But like, this is not for his career. This is for this year. Obviously, if we're marketing this, if we're saying 4 faces that we want you to tune in and watch, Messi is up there.
Mm-hmm.
I think you would put somebody like Hani Mukhtar up there as well.
Yeah.
I'd
What about
like
Lucho?
I'd like to say Vela, but we don't know where he's going.
Right. Would you put Lucho up there? Is that exciting enough for you?
It's exciting for me. I don't know if it's exciting for
the league.
I mean, I don't know many people that know Mukhtar though either, but what you would want to avoid, right, is it being a pink mountain of just Miami players that are like
Right.
Jordi Alba,
but it
Busquets,
could go that way.
Luis Suarez,
Right.
and
Yeah.
Messi. There's your Miami Rushmore. But no, I think you could put Lucho up there. And then I don't know, it's so tough because you know what? I'll say this for the US soccer fans, okay? We're going to put Zach Steffen up there since he's coming back to Colorado, and we're going to say, "Hey, US soccer fans that want to see how he's doing, tune in and watch MLS Season Pass and watch those Colorado games because somebody has to."
There's a lot of players coming back, Jordan.
There are, yeah. Colorado's building a good team,
back.
actually.
He's back. I think Sam Vines is rumored, or is
yes,
coming
he is
back.
coming back. Yeah.
So I think the whole Colorado team's going to basically be Cole Bassett's still there, I believe. They all came back.
So we're going to, just in the future here as well, next week is supposed to be our report card for, let's do this. And then I'll kick it to you for your billboard Rushmore as well. But just to kind of say while we're on the fly here, I think if we do the report card, stretch it out 2 weeks, because what we're going to do is we're going to look back at last year, and then we're going to look forward at some of the stuff that they've done. I say we do Eastern Conference report card next week,
Okay.
Western Conference report card the week after. Does that sound good?
Yeah. Yeah, because I think most of the deals are going to be done, starting to be done.
Yeah, because
Because
they're going to the
preseason started
preseason.
today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So most deals should be done, and then we'll catch you up as things go on if any big signings happen. And then we'll of course do our preview, and I think we'll kind of run through each team and give a quick little blurb about them again. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we always have fun with those. We always try to change the format of that up because we always have fun with the preview, even though it ends up being the most hated or most loved episode. Besides the kit, the kit one's my favorite one to do because it
Yeah,
was so
I
much
know.
fun
I'm really
last year.
looking forward to that. Especially our
This was a lot of
grading.
fun too.
Our grading on that is so much fun too. I want to
Mm-hmm.
remind people it's like, buy this on like MLSsoccer.com,
Yeah,
buy this at
once it hits
Ross,
Ross,
and then
yeah,
like don't
or
buy
burn
it and
it.
stuff and burn it. So we got a great rating system that we're going to bring for that too. But Logan, who's your 2024 Mount Rushmore then that you're marketing the league with?
Yeah, so number one, Lionel Messi, right? And I think could end up on everybody's Mount Rushmore by the end of it. It sounds like he's just going to keep playing at this point, which is exciting for us. He's number one. I would put Lucho number two. I'm going to put Lucho ahead of Hani Mukhtar, so I'll agree with you on those. Number four, though, I'm going to throw a little bit of curveball, and I think it's warranted. But I'm going with Chucho. I think that the run he had with Columbus was just so good. So yeah, those are
I
my
was going to
four.
say Nagby as well. It could go on there
Yeah,
too.
that could be a good one too. Yeah, Carlos Heel is always an interesting and intriguing one, but he's just never healthy enough. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing if we bring anybody else over. Zach Steffen's a great shout. I think that's really good because he's. I think he's still probably one of the best or the best keeper, even though he's had a bit of a fall off and had some rough patches with different teams. But he's still a damn good keeper. But yeah, no, that's my four. I thought it would be fun just to kind of go like who we're looking forward to, four people that we're looking forward to playing, and I like that we seem pretty similar. I think we both put Suarez on there just because, but we didn't want too much pink. I'm assuming that's where you would have gone, or the Busquets Suarez combo.
Yeah, I really want to see Suarez and just, how he, his hunger for goal is so massive.
It's better than his hunger for shoulders and
Yeah, I just
arms
can't
and
wait to
stuff.
see him just take a bite out of this league, and so he would have been up there, but no, I do think people will tune in for that, but
Yeah.
I
Oh, it's
don't.
going to be
We'll see.
we got a lot to talk about with Miami, Jordan.
We do.
The whole
We
team
do.
is nuts. Gosh.
I'm looking forward to it. You know what? What sucks? You know what really sucks? Is I'm gonna buy into it. I'm gonna put them probably high in my rankings for the
Dude,
preseason, and they're not gonna do it. I don't think they're gonna
I
do it.
think
But
everybody is. I think everybody. If you are sitting there, Jordan, and you don't have Miami as your number one, like you might as well not even do
they
prediction
have to
for
be
number
top
one.
four, right? Like they have to,
if
right?
they're not, it's a disaster.
Exactly. Oh man, so I'm looking forward to what this season will bring. And you know what, Logan, I do want to do more fun episodes like this occasionally throughout the
Yeah.
season. We'll figure out what those would be and stuff. But
Yeah.
we're always looking to change the format, get better, have more fun with the show than just when we first started, it was strictly like score sheet watching and stuff.
Yeah.
And we've gotten better since then, and I think that really excited to see where we go as we head into 2024 season, which is a month away. Hoping to get to some more games to as a as a credentialed member as well. So that's a goal for me this year. All right. Well, that about wraps up this episode. It was actually longer than I thought it would be for what we were talking about. Like I said, send us all of your Mount Rushmore thoughts. If you have fun ideas for episodes, send us those too. At Stateside Show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. Email us statesideShow@gmail.com. And, follow us on Goals TV, goals.tv. Make sure you check that out. It's a lot of fun. I've been putting some of my stadium videos up there. I just did, a stadium video for YouTube as well, which was the soccer stadium tour, stateside soccer stadium tour, which is when I went in 2022. Is kind of in a backlog here. When I went to Red Bull's NYCFC in Harrison, New Jersey. So it's like a 9-minute video of my experiences there that day. It was a lot of fun. I can't wait to hopefully get to more games and different stadiums this year at some point. But yeah, so thank you all for watching and listening along. Make sure to rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. You can like and subscribe for us here on YouTube and Goals.tv. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll catch you next time.